was a genius, always had been from the very start. So, we went. When he said his new ship design could carry us further, safer than any before it, we went. It was all very ho hum. The crew was small, only four. First, Dr. himself, top of his class in every class at his elementary school. Currently, the top astrophysicist in all the United States, Mexico, and Germany combined. Second, the doctor's lab assistant and engineer. He'd worked alongside him for the past 6 years and would operate, or insist on operating, any equipment over the course of the voyage. His intimate knowledge with the craft would allow him to make any necessary repairs, or, if, God help us, anything were to happen to Dr. our lives would be in his hands. Third in the ship was a rich industrialist hailing from New York. The trip would not have been possible without his funding. In return, Dr. has offered him a place on board as a passenger. The final member of the voyage was myself. I had been tasked with documenting the trip, taking photographs and recording our conversations aboard the vessel. We took off from our planet November 5th at approximately 9 a.m. From a launch site in. The ship was to complete the first leg of our journey in just 14 days. We would be taken to a small planet not too far from our own solar system. There, we would stop, collect soil samples, and speak to any locals. What would follow would be a day-long trip until we had a little more than the fuel we needed for the return trip. In doing so, Mr. hoped to cement himself in his company with the honor of having completed the furthest journey into that last frontier for what he supposed would be about 108 years. So, we went. The trip itself was very ho-hum. Over those first 14 days, Dr. conducted a series of experiments within the ship's labs. The range of these experiments included everything from testing plant growth in the absence of sunlight, dissecting and commanding small animals to sort his toolbox. Did practically nothing that first week. He was unworthy of his title as lab assistant / engineer at that point in time. I loathed him. God, on the 8th day, a few light bulbs went out. He fixed them in only a few minutes. The first 14 days were spent working on a memoir and rereading the 3 issues of the Businessman Gazette published in the weeks leading up to the trip. Having looked through the memoir in progress, I must say he is a fine writer, though his dialogue could use some work.
If you really want to learn about me, I want to know is where I'm from, my childhood, how my parents were occupied, and all before they had me, all that. But I don't feel like writing that. So we'll start later. Those first few weeks in the city were some of the best I'd ever seen. They were also some of the worst I'd ever seen. Yowzers! Dames on every corner, an ocean of booze, a real party. I had the time of my life. Then, not so much. When my father awarded me my title, he failed to mention how boring the job it came with was. A constant stream of meetings followed that wonderful ocean. I call bullshit. Look who's swearing now, Dad.
I'm afraid I missed the opportunity to film a major moment in our journey. My camera broke, stayed broken for about a day, but I was able to fix it now with some spare parts from Dr. toolbox. Here's what happened. We lost a day when we were temporarily directed off course. According to it was something to do with the doctor's experiments. I don't believe that for a moment. I believe the repair of the light bulbs had been faulty. A wire had been crossed or some other sort of issue, and it disrupted our navigational systems. I don't know. What I do know is that the doctor is anxious to reach the planet, and Mr. hopes we won't have to turn back too early and risk his world record. I hope we won't run low on resources. Remains an asshole. We reached our first destination on the 15th day. The planet itself was quite hospitable. Upon landing, Dr. began a series of experiments to test the gravity, oxygen, and to check for anything harmful in the atmosphere. Here's what he found.
This information has been censored.
Upon completion of these experiments, the planet was deemed safe, and we set out on our voyage. It was a barren planet. Massive rocks jutted out of the surface. There was little flora, and what was there was completely unrecognizable. The doctor tried to identify it, but came back empty. We called it. We couldn't find our way. We hiked almost 3 hours. It was then that we found another life form. It was very much like us, maybe a little more green. Its speech was garbled, not like anything I'd ever heard. The doctor translated as best he could. Here's what it said, according to him.
I'm paraphrasing here. The life form told us all about its planet. It was the most beautiful and ecologically diverse planet within their reachable distance. They slept on beds made of marble and drank gas. They drank through a special straw-like tube where our tongues would be. It's all backwards. More interesting, however, was what it said about the social structure of the planet. According to the creature, everyone was loyal to one ruler and one ruler only. They pledged their life to it and worked ceaselessly for it to make it proud and happy. The only problem was that none of them seemed to know what it was. In fact, just a week before our arrival, the census taker of the planet took a poll. They asked every single citizen who was in charge, and a majority of them didn't know and pledged their loyalty. The rest also didn't know, but refused to pledge their loyalty. They were quickly executed.
All of us were amazed to hear this, though we would have to wait. In the moment, we couldn't make out what exactly was happening. We could tell, however, when things began to change for the worse. It demanded something of us very suddenly.
It asked if we knew who was in charge and demanded we pledge our loyalty to whatever it was.
The doctor answered negatively.
It is my belief that this life form was the very same census taker it spoke of. I told it no. We were not applicable to the poll either way.
It advanced on us. We tried to retreat, but it was much too fast. The doctor was just about to reason with it peacefully, but in his stupidity, tried to launch into heroics. We were forced to scramble away like cowards. We had no idea what we were messing with here. We ran right back to the ship. It's a wonder we didn't get lost. Everyone was just glad we made it back safely. We all quietly seethed at so much research we'll never get now after his antics. At least we got back some of the time his mistake lost us before. We took off within the hour. The trip was silent. Nobody wanted to address what had happened, how much data we had lost. The doctor mourned the loss of his soil samples. He retreated to his lab and sulked, while Mr. and I stayed far away from one another. When Dr. returned, he was furious over some missing pieces from his lab. He demanded that whoever took them return the pieces immediately. I informed him that this was impossible. Without the pieces, my camera couldn't work, and I wouldn't be able to get any more documentation of the trip. All hell broke loose. Here is an audio recording of that hell.
I'm tired of the trip. I'm tired of you.
Asking what would come.
He broke our
Seems
navigation.
to me we're never coming enough.
Nothing that has gone right
Always
has
on
gone
the
wrong.
way.
Day
Not
after
for
That
day,
damn
after
doctor
the
is
I love
insane.
this.
It is a
The trip was going very
universally
splendid.
known that a single
Very
man with a good fortune
just
must be
dandy
in
until
want
his
of
violent
control.
nature took over.
Most people will grow
Then
up to
we got
love their
back,
servitude
everything
and
was
never
just
join
look
in
at
the
me.
revolution.
Cock.
We
That's
all
all
should
I
do
will.
That's all
Who
any of you
controls this ship
people
controls
That's
our
fine.
future.
We're all
And I
looking
control the
for
ship.
it.
It's my
Deep
ship.
down, we all
I
know
bought
who
it.
we
It's
are.
mine.
Mine,
ship.
mine. I want it. I have
And
it.
you
It's
sit around
expired.
contributing
I've had enough.
nothing and using a
Maybe the
valuable
world
resource.
breaks everyone, and if some
Worst of
doesn't
all,
strong,
you
some
bother
broken
me
places.
while I do my work. Give me a few years and I
I'm
can
strong.
buy you.
It's
Almost
time I
there.
get charged. No more
Almost
waiting.
got
None of
it.
the dirt. You're
Procrastination
insignificant.
is a thief of
Nothing at
time.
all.
When you want something,
Damn
all
it,
the
you
universe
won't
can
shut
find
up.
helping
You're
you achieve.
pathetic,
I'll have
meaningless.
to get busy now or get
I'll
busy
kill you.
dying.